Hello guys, welcome back to another chapter. This is hopefully my last one tonight, this morning. Unless I record later today, but I have all day to sleep, so why not spend night recording when I feel like it? and like, what's the point in sleeping if I can't? So, also, I guess I understand how you feel now. I'm sorry, I forgot your name, and I'm recording. I'll look it up later. But the one who always gets you before they have a chance to fall asleep. So, I agree with you now. I don't comment. I won't reply for you in that way because I'm doing it now. How dare you rub me wrong? How dare you influence my decisions? I'm joking. I'm making these choices on my own, even though I know I shouldn't. But I'm not tired anyway. So, anyways, let's get into Mastermind Rise of Anarchy. In my clouds, my head in the clouds, not coming down. Led by MHA. Chapter 37. Class 1A. Summary. Who's dropped out? Who's turned villain? And who is still here? Being a villain was different than what Katsuki had expected. His whole life he looked up to heroes and wanted to be one, but he never realized how limiting all those rules were. Heroes had to worry about holding back, avoiding property damage, maintaining good PR, and all other kinds of nonsense to the boot. But Katsuki never had enjoyed holding back. If he wanted to be number one, why should he limit himself to spare some stupid extra's feelings? When he punched, he wanted to punch hard. Being a villain was liberating in a sense. Sure, it had freaked him out when he accidentally beaten a guy to death. The extra probably deserved it. And now that he'd been blown past that wall, he didn't have to worry about it anymore. Not that the setting out killing people, obviously, but it was nice to be able to reveal in the power of punching someone's light out without feeling guilty about what happened if he went too far. He'd always loved that feeling. Even when Deku and those other losers back in school, he'd gotten a rush from seeing fear in their eyes, and knowing that he was stronger than they were. It was even better now that he wasn't just beating some snot-nosed kids, but real adults with powerful quirks of their own. He'd proved that he was better than all those useless extras, including Deku. There were parts about being a villain that were pretty annoying, though. Maybe it would have been different if he wasn't homeless and on the run from the police, but however, he could deal with it. Shaking down people for cash wasn't too effective in getting money quickly, but beating them up until they told him their pin to going to the nearest ATM before they had a chance to cancel the credit card was. It had been hard enough to find an apartment than he hoped, since most places wouldn't rent to somebody with an active warrant out for their arrest, obviously. He'd assume the sketchier places wouldn't really care about things like ID and him being a minor, and he'd be right, but apparently those places did care about history with Mastermind. Stupid Deku was making a mess of things even now that he was finally out of Katsuki's life. Typical. Apparently he was too big of a risk factor, whatever. No amount of threats could change their fucking mind. Whatever. He didn't need them anyways. The abandoned building was currently squatting in its front, and it smelt distinctive smoke after he kicked the previous occupants. He managed to bribe somebody into hooking up a generator so he'd at least have electricity and warm water. It still sucked, but it sucked less than trying to sleep in an alley like he had the first few nights. He could deal with it, especially since it wouldn't last long. Soon enough, he'd show those idiots he was much scarier than Deku. It was only a matter of time. Uraraka looked lost and out of place, but walked to the cafe. Hitoshi's uncomfortable silence probably wasn't helping, but what was he supposed to say? Hey, glad you're finally woken and stopped killing yourself for a broken system. Congratulations. Even if it was a little, even if she was a little awkward and kept instinctively looking towards every slight suspicious noise, Hitoshi couldn't help but be impressed that she was trying. He didn't know exactly what Nezu had been doing to her to push her to exhaustion, but it was obviously hard to fight against it. If it had taken her this long to start fighting back, it would have probably taken her a while to be comfortable just existing for herself, rather than working every minute to keep other people happy. But Sue was walking alongside her and giving her a hand, reassuring squeeze every time she jumped at a new sound or looked like she wanted to bolt. Basically, it was a work in progress, but they were getting there. The rest of the class had trickled out by the time they arrived, and if it weren't for everyone missing, it would have felt like almost one of their old class get-togethers. They'd started out UA with 20 students at the beginning of the year, a full 20 kids with bright hopes, aspirations of being heroes, saving people, changing the world. Obviously, that hadn't worked quite out they'd planned. In total, almost half the class had dropped out, and Hitoshi guessed that they were supposed to be grateful that only a third of those had become a villain instead of heroes. However, somehow, it still didn't feel like a win. Even if he was happy for everyone who was moving on to bigger and better things, Oyama becoming very popular model, and there were even rumors going around that he might be transferring over to being a designer soon. So he seemed to be doing well for himself. Ojiro had been offered an instruction program at a dojo that Gunhead started after announcing his retirement, and had chosen to continue his education at school, was closer and didn't make him a target. And Hitoshi wasn't sure what Mineta was doing, but it was getting attacked by the League of Villains every week, so he guessed he was whining too. What stung most was the students they had lost after Tokoyami abandoned them. Hitoshi wasn't sure if Shoji had been staying in the hero course to show Tokoyami that there were no hard feelings for almost killing him at summer camp, or if he thought his appearance was too scary and afraid of the same treatment from their classmates. But either way, he had gone to Aizawa and said he wanted out. If he had gone to Nezu, the rat most likely would have pressured him to stay, but Aizawa didn't do that. Instead, he offered to help him, not only, but anybody in the class who had been looking for an excuse to leave, to find somewhere to go, and Sato and Koda had both taken him up on the offer. That was how they'd all gotten here. Aizawa had reached out to some of his old contacts, Hita brothers, who ran a cat cafe, and got all of them a job at Naruto. The class had decided to let them get settled before coming for a visit. But it was long enough, however, that there was another incident, and there had almost been every single time they all went out as a class. It wouldn't get them fired. Hitoshi still had Aizawa on speed dial, though, just in case. Yorirotsu waved to them as they came in. Welcome, come sit down. I ordered us Friday. You mean you ordered us the entire menu? Chio rolled her eyes. Seriously, we're not gonna be able to eat everything you ordered. Well, I'm just supporting my friends. Yorirotsu blushed. Is that wrong? No, Kirishima gave a sad smile. Supporting your friends is super manly. Yorirotsu gave him a grateful smile, and Sarah slung an arm over his shoulder. Yeah, well, we're all weak for Sato's baking, so we'll make it disappear somehow. I'm surprised you actually ended up making it, Ochako, Ashido said. You're usually too busy with training. Ochako tensed, and Hitoshi caught Sue almost glaring at Ashido. He understood why, obviously, and if there wouldn't do more harm than good. Hitoshi would have straight up used his quirk and ordered Ashido to shut up. Uraraka reached for Sue's hand under the table and gave it a squeeze. Well, part of being a good hero of hope. How can civilians feel safe enough to relax and live their own lives if their heroes aren't confident to do the same? The explanation sounded slightly rehearsed, and it made Hitoshi wonder how long she'd spent practicing the wording in front of a mirror to get it perfect, just in case Nezu confronted her. It wasn't fair that a teenager needed an excuse to hang out with her friends and just to be a normal kid. But he supposed the world hadn't been fair since Mastermind. So at least the excuse was in character enough for her classmates to accept it without question. There was a flush relief in Uraraka's eyes when Ashido turned away from her to look at the kitchen, just in time to see Sato open the door with trays in each hand and smiled when he saw them and made a straight for their table, setting the trays down in front of them. I asked to bring you an order so I could say hi. I'm glad you can make it over here. Of course, Hiroto stood up and gave him a hug. Are Koda and Shoji in there? Koda's around here somewhere. Sato frowned and looked around. There's plenty of nooks and crannies around the cafe where he likes usually hiding places, so you're pretty unlikely to catch a glimpse of him. Well, unless you're a cat. Everyone laughed at that, and Hitoshi smiled as he scratched one of the cats under the chin. Yeah, it seems about right. Sounds like he's happy. Sato grinned. Yeah, a place like this is heaven for him. Plus, we've been having better luck getting cats adopted by humans they like, as well as taking in strays. Koda was built for a job like this. What about Shoji? Jiro asked. He works in the kitchen with you guys, right? Is he gonna come out and say hi? Sato's expression twisted into a grimace. He mostly stays in the kitchen these days. We've tried telling him that most of the staff has mutation quirks of some kind, so he doesn't have to worry about scaring the customers, but Sato shrugged helplessly. Everyone shuffled awkwardly in the silence. It was probably at the less particular fault that Shoji was so scared of being judged a villain after his class had pushed out Tokoyami out of sheer suspicion. Somehow, he didn't think saying anything would really cut into the situation. After a long moment, Sato cleared his throat. Hotel brothers say he's one of the best employees we've had, though. With all of his arms, he can frost an entire batch of cookies in, well, sixth the time. Is he the one who did these? Yairatsu held up a cupcake. They're gorgeous. Sato nodded and smiled softly. I'll be sure to tell him you guys liked it. Ochako was quiet on the way home. Before her breakdown, she hadn't understood why anyone would willingly leave a career where they could save people. It just didn't make sense and felt wrong on so many levels. But after seeing the new life Sato and some of the others had created, well, the excuses she told Nezu didn't seem like an excuse anymore. When she was little, she loved being around hero fights. Not to watch the fights itself, but to see all the happy faces of everyone in the crowd. Somewhere along the way, she lost sight of that. Becoming a hero had somehow been more about beating Mastermind than saving civilians. But now both of those felt wrong. She didn't want to be a hero just to take down villains, or just to save people. She wanted to be a hero so she could create a world that was actually safe. Sue said that they could create whatever they wanted, and Ochako knew what kind of world that was. A world where everyone had a chance to live a normal life if they wanted one. One where people like Shoji didn't have to worry about being feared of scary quirks, and people with weak or strong quirks alike could choose to do great things or live happily day to day. That's what they wanted. Being a hero was less about what was right and more about creating a world where people actually had a chance to be happy. Ochako was going to do whatever was necessary to get there. I'm so happy. So, just in the notes, I'll just read this now, to keep track, because there's like the whole summary too. So, everyone who's left in the hero chorus for the heroes is Sue, Shinso, Ida, Kirishima, Zero, Yaeratsu, Uraraka, Kaminari, Ashido, Jiro, and Hagakure. The villains are Tokuyami, and Bakugo, and then dropouts are Mineta, Sato, Oyama, Koda, Shoji, and Ochiro. So yeah. The list seems so small. It's so sad. But also I'm happy for like Koda and Koda and Sato. And also Shoji. Poor baby. If you this episode of the anime though. Anyways. I do want to say I probably will make a post or another thing later once I get into more like late 40 chapters. Because we're already on 37. Like, there's not that much left once you think about it. 13 more chapters. But yeah. I I kind of liked doing this. I'm not saying it's over yet, but like, just so I can get an idea. Does anyone have any non-podfic fanfics? And we'll do like different anime too. I can put that in my bio or on the post I'll make later once I get that figured out. But like Naruto, Demon Slayer, My Hero Academia, any good fics that haven't been podfic yet. I don't really know how to look for that. So, if any of you guys know, I don't know if you guys would know, but if you do, could you tell me? I may have to do some YouTube research. Yippee! But yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much for listening, and I will see you in the next chapter. Peace.